Texans versus Colts, a lot, and I mean a lot, is on the line. This is a massive game. Don't minimize it. It's the weekend, baby. Let's go inside the locker room, talk about everything we saw at practice and everything we anticipate Sunday at NRG. Let's eat.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localize every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too plugged in daily digital.
It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can see me here throughout the week. I'm at practice every day whenever they're practicing, and I'm right here with you and on SNL in the morning. Be sure to subscribe, be sure to like, be sure to ride along, be sure to appreciate that, my God, the weekend is here. And you also, it's a crazy one for Texans fans, because if you're one of these people, and I do mean these people who kind of rides and dies with what goes on in the NFL, this is one of those experiences where if you have kind of the emotional clock, the way that players, coaches have like the routine and they have their clock, it's gonna intensify this week, because in the next 6 days, less than a week, there's going to be 2 ball games, which means there's going to be 2 post-game shows right here live after each game. There's going to be a Reaction Monday, kind of combined with an on to the New York Jets, because there's a quick turnaround there. And then Thursday Night Football, you're going to watch the Texans take on the Jets on one of the worst playing surfaces in the league, and in a game that's going to be not easy by any stretch of the imagination. And, oh, by the way, you're kind of concerned about the offensive line. And I think there's a lot on the line on Sunday. And I think a win is on the line Sunday. And some people might say, well, no kidding. Of course a win's on the line. Every game a win's on the line. No, it's on the line. Like, it's on the Texans' offensive line. The offensive line is the key to success. The offensive line is what will prevent the Texans from perhaps winning this game, or it's what will allow the Texans to win this game. And they don't even have to be great. They just can't be as bad as they've been in the losses that the Texans have had. There's been 2 clear themes. Like, you're going to lose games over the course of a season, and a lot of times some things are going to stick out significantly. And it's going to be why you lose. Our quarterback sucks. Our defense sucks. Our offense sucks. Our kicker sucks. The 2 things that have happened when the Texans have lost games, first of all, they lost to a couple of good ball clubs in Minnesota and Green Bay. They've both been road games, but in both of those games, the offensive line's been terrible. It was penalties that stuck out the most against the Vikings, the inability to actually line up legally. And then against the Packers, it was the inability to block. It was the inability to communicate. And that was why they lost that game. So the line is going to control whether or not the Texans have a chance to win this game. And the other thing about this game, I'll just be completely honest with you. I don't think this is a bunny. I don't think this is as much of a bunny as it's getting spoken of when it comes to the Indianapolis Colts. Do I think the Colts are a good team? No. Do I think their defense sucks? Yes. But I don't think this is like just some sort of just show up and play type of ball game. And I don't think the Texans possess the ability to be one of those squads. And I also think the Texans are going to be missing the most significant piece they've had against the Indianapolis Colts, and Nico Collins, who completely owns them. So I think this is going to be a tougher game than it's getting credit for. And I think there's a couple of things that the Texans have going for them. And I think that there's a couple of things that the Texans have going against them. And I'll start with the thing they have going for them the most, which is CJ Stroud versus Anthony Richardson. Like, you have the quarterback advantage. Now, is that always the end all be all? No, but you have the quarterback advantage in CJ Stroud versus Anthony Richardson. And I think that is very, very, very important. I think it's the most important thing that you can have. I also think that D'Amico Ryans has now seen Anthony Richardson a couple of times. I think there's a chance that he kind of figures out what to do. And you also have a really good defensive line that is going to be able to pressure Anthony Richardson and perhaps force him into mistakes and force him into sacks. So that's the best thing that the Texans have going for them there. They also have a good coach going against a good coach. Shane Steichen versus D'Amico Ryans. I think Shane Steichen doesn't get the credit he deserves for what he's done with Indianapolis, given the card that he's been dealt at the most important position. I think Shane Steichen is good. I think Shane Steichen will be able to take advantage of certain things. We've yet to really see, we've seen it in small stretches. We've seen Jalen Petrie kind of forced into coverage at times. Sometimes he's been able to man up. Sometimes the quarterback's been unable to take advantage of the situation. But I think Shane Steichen is going to try to take advantage of that opportunity with Jalen Petrie, and specifically even more with the Texans linebackers who will be in coverage and all that type of stuff. Like you're not going to have Azeez Al-Shire, Henry To'oTo'o. We talked about it yesterday. I said I would bet on him playing. He practiced today. He's questionable. I think he goes. And then you have Hansen and Hewitt, who performed at a good level against Green Bay. But I don't know that you want to see them in coverage. So I think Steichen will be able to take advantage of those things. I think D'Amico's defense will be prepared, but be on the lookout for whether it's Eric Murray, whether it's Jalen Petrie, the safeties not named Kalen Bullock. Look for Shane Steichen to try to take advantage of that. And that's going to be perhaps a little bit easier because Josh Downs, who didn't play in the first matchup, he's going to be a part of what Indianapolis has got going. He's good in the slot. They also have Alec Pierce, who's a little bit of a deep threat. And oh, by the way, Jonathan Taylor and Tank Dell, they're going to be looking to bounce back. Now, the good news, depending on how you look at it, you can look at this glass half full, you can look at this glass half empty. Jonathan Taylor, you kept him in check the first time around. Now, that's encouraging because you showed that you're capable of doing that. But a lot of times with a really, really good player or a really, really good coach, the opposite thing happens the next time around. We saw Jonathan Taylor week 18 last year. We saw him as the best player on the football field for the Indianapolis Colts. And Jonathan Taylor was running all over the Texans defense. Now, it was a different Texans defense. Wasn't as good. Damn sure wasn't as talented up front. But we saw him run all over them. And then this season, we saw him kept in check. It's kind of similar to when Amari Cooper went off on the Texans the first time, and then the second time there was an adjustment because D'Amico is a really, really good defensive coach, and he took advantage of it. So it depends if you want to look at it glass half full, glass half empty. I know D'Amico Ryans has the utmost respect for Jonathan Taylor, and how could you not? So there's that. Tank Dell's got to bounce back. Tank Dell has had two really, really awful games this year. He's had one where he was catchless. He's had one where I think he had negative receiving yards. You know, there's talk about the three-headed monster for the Texans this year heading into the season when they brought in Diggs and they had Nico Collins and Tank. Tank hasn't really looked like part of a three-headed monster. He's been banged up. The separation rate last year, I think Stutz put the stat out today on SNL. And if y'all want to look at the breakdown of the offensive line, I strongly recommend you go back to my live video earlier today, the 4 o'clock reaction to the final injury report, which we do every Friday, myself and Cody Stutz, and just check out the conflicting words in regards to the offensive line from the Texans. But Stutz threw out an interesting stat. Like last year, Tank Dell was at the top of the league in separation rate. This year, that separation rate would actually lead the league, but his actual separation rate this year is like in the middle of the pack in the entire NFL. So he's had trouble separating. Is it an injury thing? Is it a schematic thing? Does he need more opportunities? I don't know. But Jonathan Taylor and Tank Dell will both be looking to bounce back. And quite frankly, I don't think it's a negotiable when it comes to Tank Dell. You have Stefon Diggs. He was limited today. So we'll keep an eye on that. And it might not be a big deal Sunday, but I think it could be a big deal Thursday when Stefon Diggs is limited because it's a quick turnaround. It's on a crappy playing surface. And that's why I think this game is so important. And we talk about stuff on the line. I think AFC South Comfort for the Texans is on the line. No matter what the result is the next 6 days, the Texans are going to be in the mix when it comes to winning the AFC South. They're the most talented team. They're a good team. The other teams have flaws. So there's going to be no scenario in the next couple of days 6 days where the Texans are out of the AFC South. However, if you want to keep comfort in the AFC South, you got to win this game against the Colts. Because if you lose it, you're tied with them in the standings, and then you're facing the Jets, and you got the Lions coming after that after the long break. This is a must-win. You got to keep the 2-game cushion in the AFC South, and this is the game that you have to win. If you split the next 2, I don't think it's the end of the world, but you have an uphill battle against the Jets no matter what. You're probably the superior squad right now, talent-wise, but you're going to their place. You're doing so on a short week. You've already got a banged-up team. You're already an underdog. The playing surface is ass. The playing surface last year, Nico Collins got hurt on the first series. Then you had CJ Stroud getting hurt. You've got to win this game so that you have some sort of comfort. You don't want to go into a situation where you're looking at 5-4 with a loss to the Jets and you're having these guys do too much. So you got to go out there. You got to handle your business. You got to beat the Colts. You got to improve to 6-2. That's a non-negotiable. Now, can the offensive line give you a chance? That's another question that we're going to have to see. Practice update today. I was on the scene. Practice reports every day on the YouTube channel on the shorts. Henry To'oTo'o was there. Al Shire and Jimmy Ward officially listed out. I think Jimmy Ward's pretty close, though. If he doesn't come back against the Jets, another good point that Stutz brought up, that would mean that he probably should have gone on injured reserve. But I think he's pretty insistent that he is close to being back. So keep an eye on Jimmy Ward. It's not season ending. I think the latest that we see Jimmy Ward back will be against the Lions. Same thing with Azeez Al-Shire. And I would bet any amount of money that Nico Collins is back against the Lions. I think I'm extremely confident in that. So you are going to get healthier if you are the Texans. So that's the practice update. What do they do with Sims? What do they do with Woods? They're back. But no Al Shire, no Jimmy Ward. To'oTo'o is questionable. I think To'oTo'o probably goes. So we have that. So be sure to swarm the like button. Speaking of money, BetUS, I did a parlay today. I just did this. I did a parlay, and you can get in the game. Promo code YouTube 150. Promo code YouTube 150. You can get 150% bonus up to $2,000. I have a few bets for tomorrow with BetUS. This isn't even a sponsored video. I'm just letting you know. I'm just kind of going public. I'm kind of feeling it on these bets. So tomorrow in college, I'm taking Oklahoma and Mississippi. I'm taking the over 49. I think Mississippi can do a lot on their own. And I think Oklahoma, starting the new quarterback, might revive them. So over 49, I'm taking that. Texas versus Vanderbilt. I think this is kind of you can just show up and play type of Texas game. Those are going to be famous last words. I thought they were going to lose to Georgia last week. Though I didn't think that would be a close game. Ended up being right on that. I think -10.5 for Texas. And in that Texas game, I got 50 to win 65. Ryan Wingo touchdown for the Longhorns. The Texans parlay. I have 5 things, $40 to win 600. So this is a $40. And by the way, if you want to get in on that, I think if you put $20 in, then you can have the $40 in your account plus 150. Matter of fact, you'll have $45 in. You just put $20 in, use the promo code YouTube 150. You can put $40 in and still have $5 to play with. And if you win this 600, you can thank me. If you lose it, it's only $20, but it's a $40 bet. But I put my parlay is 40 to win 600. I like Dalton Schultz with the over 33.5 receiving yards. He had the one catch last week for 28 yards. I think he's going to need to be a part of things. I like him on the over. I think they know this. Josh Downs, I like him in the slot with Petrie, so I have him over 38.5 receiving yards. CJ Stroud over 240.5 passing yards. I think he's going to have to throw. I think he's going to have to figure some stuff out. Joe Mixon over 2.5 receptions. And then I have the Colts over 19.5 points. I don't think the Texans are going to shut out the Colts. I think they're going to be able to score on them, but I don't think they shut them out. So Indy over 19.5 points, Mixon over 2.5 receptions, Stroud over 240.5 yards. And then I got Downs over 38.5 receiving yards, and Schultz over 33.5. $40 will win me $600 if that happens. You can get in the action on that. BetUS, promo code YouTube 150. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, Jimmy Ward will be back. So we will see what that looks like. What's my guess? Have they made a change to the offensive line or not? If they haven't, then that's weird, I guess. It's kind of concerning. The open portion of practice, they really didn't show much. I don't know. They seemed extra confident after Wednesday. I don't know what it was. I don't know if they had like some sort of speech. I don't know if they had a coming to Jesus meeting. But I would anticipate there's some sort of change. It might be the way in which Slowick calls a game. It could be a change at guard. But who knows? I did find it interesting that Slowick on Thursday said that Juice and CJ were doing well when it came to communication. So do with that what you will. I think it'll be really, really interesting. 24-13, we would take it. If they held the Colts to 13, then yeah, that's probably a dub. The bounce back win would be huge. And we'll see. Simplify the communication problem. That might be easier said than done. I'm not really sure if that's going to be a possibility with this squad. It seems like there's a lot of issues with the Texans. Couple of key dates to keep an eye on when it comes to the Texans. So we obviously have the game on Sunday. Then you have the next game on Thursday. You're going to have 10 days off and face the Lions. November 5th, I think, is the trade deadline. November 4th or 5th, around that time. So will the Texans make a trade? What does that trade look like? It is kind of wild. Like you're seeing all these teams that you're chasing, they're making moves. Now, you could say, well, Nico Autry coming back, Nico Collins coming back, that's kind of going to give you a kick. But all these teams, from the Chiefs with Hopkins, from the Bills with Cooper, they're all making moves. And then I heard a rumor about the Ravens trading for Cooper Kupp. If that happens, then that's sickening for anyone chasing them and everything they got going. But we'll see what Nick and D'Amico decide. I will say this. If the offensive line comes out this week, I don't think all problems are solved. It's kind of been a little bit of a seesaw this week. I think the Jets game would be as much of a measurement as this one, because we've seen them serviceable at times, and then we've seen them really, really terrible. So if they come out and they're serviceable against the Colts, and who knows, if they don't make a change and it looks the same, I think we're going to get a lot of questions and a lot of criticisms about the coaching staff. But we've seen D'Amico Ryans extremely confident. Bobby Slowick seems a little bit confident, and we will see what it looks like with Anthony Richardson, a.k.a. LaFar Jackson. That's what I call him, LaFar Jackson. I thought that was a weird comparison, Anthony Richardson and Lamar Jackson. That was one of the weirder things that I've seen. Do we see Jawar Jordan on Sunday? No, we don't. He's not even going to be active. He's on the practice squad, and that's where he belongs, quite frankly. So no, I don't think we see Jawar Jordan active. My answer to that would be no. I don't know that we see him on the field this year. To be honest, I don't even know if he's good. To be honest, I think some people got excited about him in the draft, but no, I don't think we see that. Just hate how much we let the dude throw on us. You're talking about Anthony Richardson, the few throws. Yeah. And I don't know how you take those away when talking about his play. I hear people say, well, if it hadn't been for those 3 passes, okay. If it hadn't been for those 3 passes, they would have blown him out. Well, what about if Nico Collins hadn't played? Because Nico Collins isn't playing this time around. What if they would have had Josh Downs in the slot? Maybe he would have been able to complete more intermediate passes. What if Jonathan Taylor runs for more yards? Like there's a lot of what ifs. I just don't know that the what ifs really matter as much and are as easy to dismiss. And I'm the biggest Anthony Richardson, aka LaFar Jackson critic that there is. I don't think he's worth a damn. But in stretches, he can do his thing. And this Texans defense, they're a little bit vulnerable. Devin White is looking, you can't really tell. Big dude. I don't think he's out of shape. We'll see what he does. I don't think they're going to ask him to do too much. I don't think you're going to see him playing like 75, 80% of the snaps. I think it's going to be somewhat obvious if he is out there, what they're asking him to do. I think it's going to be a little bit simple, but he looks fine. He looks fine. Looks like kind of a badass in his uniform. He's got the visor and all that. Do I think Devin White will play Sunday? I think there's a chance. I think there's a really decent chance. There. Do we really want Ward on the field over Bullock? Is that the question? Like, wouldn't Ward be out there more? Like, wouldn't they put Ward and Bullock out there? I don't know that you have to choose one or the other. I mean, I would like to have Ward active. Yes, I would. Does that mean that him and Bullock are playing the whole time? I don't know. I feel like you could find a way to play both of those guys at the same time. I don't think that Jimmy Ward would be active and it would be like, hey, Eric Murray, go play 100% of the snaps. So I don't think that that's really much of a thing. D'Angelo Ross is hurt. I don't know that we're going to see D'Angelo Ross. And you also have Kamari Lasser back. I was going to talk to I'll say this about the squad this week. And it really kind of started on Wednesday. They're focused. They seem focused. Now, what does that mean? Anything? I don't know, but it does seem like a very, very focused squad. Specifically Kamari Lasser. Kamari Lasser is about that action. He said he would speak after the game. So we'll talk to Kamari Lasser. He's going to be going against his buddy, Adonai Mitchell. But we'll see how that whole thing goes with Lasser, but he's definitely better than D'Angelo Ross. I think we can agree with that. And I'm not even as hard on D'Angelo Ross. A lot of people, did he suck? Yeah. Did I expect him not to suck? No, that's about what I expected. I expected that you would probably have your way with D'Angelo Ross whenever you throw at him. I'm hearing people ask about Auda. I think Auda is going to be back soon-ish. I keep saying soon-ish. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Like, is it cool to have a corner that's serviceable? Yes. Is he even serviceable? I don't know about Auda. He looked okay in camp. He was kind of physical. There were times where he was getting kind of roasted. Granted, he's guarding really good receivers. I don't like this. I don't know what Auda is. Someone said that I kind of trust. I don't know that he's that much better than Ross. And I just said, damn, it's like that. I find that hard to believe. But, I mean, he's on his third team for a reason. He was a top 10 pick. He's on his third team for a reason. And I know Devin White's on his third team as well. Devin White was getting all the reps in Philadelphia. They just decided to go young. They wanted to use Nakobe Dean, and it wasn't a good situation for Devin White, so this is where he is. He had options. I don't know how many options Jeff Auda had. I think there were probably a few, but I don't know how many options Jeff Auda had. And quite frankly, there's some veterans, like, let's just put it this way. This is the way that I can put Auda like in perspective. Like, let's say hypothetically Steven Nelson is still on this team and he's still on the Texans. And I don't know how he would handle this. Who knows? Shout out to Pod Juice Sipper, crazy mofo. But a big part of what the Texans did last year, Steven Nelson. Shout out to my guy, Steven Nelson. Not really my guy, but whatever. If Steven Nelson were here and they drafted Kamari Lasser is not immediately starting over him. He might get to the point where he does. Hell, they might use Lasser inside like a lot of people thought he was going to be used at first. But a guy like Steven Nelson is not immediately getting started over by him. Like, look at some other like veteran corners that the Texans have brought in as well. Like, I don't know, Bradley Roby a few years ago. That's not the case. Bradley Roby's holding it down. Jeff Auda wasn't even like holding it down for a couple of days when Lassiter got here. Lassiter was immediately cornerback 2. It wasn't like you got to earn your spot type of joint. It was this guy is immediately cornerback 2 with Auda here. Now, Auda, I will say, was at times clearly CB3, not CB4, CB3. And it was kind of obvious that he was the third best at times. And then at times it was kind of like, okay, well, he kind of blends in with the others. I don't know what you're getting with Auda. But yeah, who really knows what the deal with Auda is. Sarah says Aaron Wilson and Steven Nelson pod were talking about when everyone was coming back and their timelines. What's going on with that? I don't know. Like, Steven Nelson's podcast is weird because he's not really entertaining as he is on Twitter. And I don't know that I would I love Aaron. I don't know if Aaron's like the timeline guy with these types of injury things. No disrespect. Jose says, I don't know why Nelson was quick to bad talk the only team that gave him a chance. If he was as good as he thought he was, he would be in a team right now. And you can tell it's really bitter. It's a really tough time for Steven Nelson. And I'm not saying this in a condescending manner. I'm not saying this like to be mean-spirited, which I don't mind being mean-spirited every once in a while, but I'm like, I think it's really hard for Steven Nelson because his delusional nature is kind of what allows him to be the player that he's been. And it's also kind of at times probably stuff that holds him back in certain situations. And you can tell, and I think he got rid of someone told me that he got rid of his Twitter account for a little bit. I don't know if it's back or not. But you can tell that he's very, very depressed and sad. And maybe not like overly depressed. Maybe I'm using that word loosely, but watching football games for him is tough. Like you can tell, like he's watching very closely, and you can tell he feels that he should be still playing football and that he still belongs on an NFL field. And honestly, with some of the crappy corners that we see, I don't disagree with that. But I think when you act the way he does, there's kind of a limited willingness to bring this guy in. Like, are we going to bring this guy in and he's not going to play in certain situations? And then he's going to be acting like, Deion Sanders got benched or something like that. I think there's a strong chance of that. But you can tell that when Steven Nelson watches the Texas play, it's not easy for him. It's not easy for him to watch the NFL. And he'll say, I got my money, the weird ass like retirement announcement and all that type of stuff. Come on. He still wanted to play. He probably just doesn't think he can get the value he got. So now at this point, it's harder to get a job than perhaps he envisioned. So I think it's just really, really hard for Steven Nelson to watch the games. It's very, very true. So the timelines, Christian Harris won't be coming back this week. Acting like he was coming back next. No, I mean, dude, I've been all over the Christian Harris stuff more than anything. Y'all know this. Then he gave timelines like Aziz and Jimmy potentially Lions game. Yeah, that's obvious. I mean, that's just Captain Obvious stuff. Possibly Lions. Yeah, we all know that. That's not hard to see. So yeah, well, Steven Nelson ain't arriving here. He's kind of sad. I understand. I'm happy though. It is the football weekend, and we're going to be live. I'm going to be at NRG. I'm going to head out there to the Colts game, and then I'm going to be live on the post-game show, usually probably about 5. I'll work the locker room, see what kind of sound I can get the takeaways, and then we'll cuss and discuss what's going on. Shout out to Clint Sterner. We'll cuss and discuss what happened, what went wrong, what's good. We'll look ahead to the Jets kinda reaction Monday on Monday, and then it's on to the Jets, and we're gonna have a post-game show right that Thursday, and then next week I'm going to Vegas, baby. Friday after, yes sir, yes sirs and ma'ams. The Friday after, I will be going to Vegas for that off weekend. I'm very excited for that. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to enjoy this football weekend, however the hell you want to do it. Unwind, act a fool. BetUS. Promo code YouTube 150. If you want to piggyback that 40 to win 600. If you don't, it's all love regardless. We're all in it together. Thanks for joining me in the locker room post-game show right after the game. Follow along on Twitter, X, whatever the hell they call it, as well, and YouTube and all social media platforms. Let's see.
Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give. We got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah.